me asking some of the most interesting questions pertaining to Asia Degree's case. I seem to be one of the only people outside of the Finding Asia Degree blog. Yes, that individual asked some very interesting questions, and so do I, but the only difference, I like to delve a little bit deeper. Shouts out to the one, yes, this individual, I won't say their name, but very good blog pertaining to the missing child and, yes, Asia Degree, her case, missing persons, missing child, which she's today, here in 2018, would have been a full-grown adult. So I like to ask very, very specific questions pertaining to matters such as that, because that even helps my thinking and logic, reasoning processes, as well as skills. Sometimes of me getting carried away and asking things in which people feel like I shouldn't impose myself on a situation enough to ask. And yet, to express with a bright mind is to allow oneself to do just that. Because, see, we live in the world that just doesn't include one individual, and it just doesn't exclude one individual. It includes all of us. And so for me to get carried away and delving deeper is just allowed me to do scientifically just that, as an elaboration pertaining to details on the subject matter. So this video right here, this is in fact was for my eyes, but as I stated before, when I made that the construction superintendent video, that was for my eyes only, but this one is as well. Some of these videos I'm compiling were for, in fact, my eyes only and not really for the public, but for me to make notes in written form as well as in detail on video is to, in fact, instead of setting it on private, why not just keep it open? I'm an open individual anyway. Many individuals have said that I'm extremely blunt in the way that I talk, to the point it's highly offensive, and yet, not to say who cares, and yet, we live in the real world. I know I do. I don't try to escape reality in no form and fashion, but yes, the question of, say, the bedroom. Am I peering too far? Dear eyewitnesses or whoever else? Am I going as in unwrapping things which are strawn and laid too far away, as an arresting ordeal, even on Asia's end? I don't know, because for me, I have an inquisitive mind, so it just don't, for me, it's better for me to pick piece by piece, layer by layer, and not just be looking at something at a surface level. See, standing at a surface level can teach you and tell you nothing at all, because remember, it's surface, which is the point of that anyway. But to know that a bag was dragged, right, even in that, and a possible death, right, is for me to even drag myself along with it pertaining to the case, as in dragging deeper and not just staying at the surface. Like, who does that? Who says that there's a missing person out here and they might still be alive, and yet, you know what, I'm just going to be a surface, thoughtful, meaningless person, and that's not to down anyone or downplay anybody. That's why I should have made this video for my eyes only, in which it is, and yet if you choose to view it, then yes. But I mean, that doesn't seem right. Do I not make sense pertaining to that, as in this video is in fact titled Asia's Bedding, as in where she would lay down and go to sleep, resting place, right? So somebody might say, well, you need to stay out of the family's house and not question. But I'm thinking to myself, if I'm a full-blown member to society, I have that right to question even the child's bedding, as in where and how she was sleeping, as in the detail of if a bed was made or wasn't it. Pertaining to, because see, that just is only right to be part of some society and question much more further pertaining to any missing whatever. That don't, I don't know, because see, I was checked, or people tried to check me about what not to say. You know, people send you messages or whatever else in the form of love their self or whatever. You know, people do all, I think that's kind of reckless behavior on their end to tell me where to stop as where not to impose, knowing that I live on planet Earth where children are taken every day. And not only that, in me saying this, even I'm thinking the National Center, yes, they would. Yes, for the children and exploited children of. So why would not just sit and that don't make sense. That something is wrong there. As in telling me what to do and what not to do, knowing that when something done went missing, there's in fact a mystery that stands in that. Like, that surface, I'm gonna just leave that part alone. I leave that part alone, because see, to stay on the surface to stay on the surface of anything that doesn't appear or seem right pertaining to any missing individual, especially a child leaving out at night, to stay just up on the surface of that is to say that little girl might never be found, even if she's dead, as in buried up under somebody's house or roadway that was right where the bag was planted at and placed on top, right? Despite the bag being found, that's a shallow nature individual is what I'm trying to say, to stay on the surface. See, people like me, I don't just take whatever is served to me, even by mass media, because I know much more deeper than that. Everything that meets the eyes is not fully correct, as in there's more to that. There's extra layers to that, as in a definition. Whoever was a journalist had to write in order to put out whatever to you, even on Fox and CNN. They can't put everything in the story, is what I'm trying to say. It's not enough time for that. So moving on. Asia's bed, as in her bedroom, as in the bedding. These notes right here are not in fact completed, and yes, I just kind of threw them together as I was going, because I'm questioning randoms. So yes, Asia's bed, her bedding, pertaining to her bedroom. I said I question if Asia's bed was made up before she supposedly left. And not only in that, I question the way and how the child's bed looked as police made their way into the home to find out what could have happened. Or what could have happened as in played out that night when Asia went missing. Or if she even left or went anywhere. So yeah, I'm gonna read it again. I'm in question of Asia's bed. Was it made up before she supposedly left? See, because when somebody leave out the door, if they're leaving at all, and maybe or maybe not, something has to be left behind, as in strong, just like all that the stuff left at the shed, as well as the bag being found buried by the grader machine, pulling and unearthing, uprooting for a house or roadway to be built there. Something will be left behind. And the next other thing pertaining to FBI doing their search as well is to question even the child's bed, as in how was it made up? Was it even made up? Because see, even that points in a direction as well. That brings us right back on cue. Yes, it does. I question if Asia's bed was made up before she supposedly left. And not only that, I question the way and how the bed looked as police made their way into the home to find out what could have happened to young Asia as she went missing. Yes, so dear police, FBI, was the child's bed made after she left? See, it would have in fact been made before, but when they go back in to see, to try to find, search and rescue, whatever, pertaining to even that, they would know whether how the bed looked. As even this shakes me up even thinking about it, right? Because see, even I said the reason why this shake me up, because it just made me just think of like the girl being molested or something like that. That's why I'm saying I'm shaking up just thinking about it. And not only that, I'm not trying to ridicule anybody in no form or fashion of even say a child sleeping on the floor and being anywhere close by a doorway to get away from that sort of thing, right? Because remember, abuse of something played its way and even that, as in the child supposedly leaving. So that's the reason why, because see, if you got even molestation there, and I didn't write this down, I'm just free mind, free thought elaboration, just let my mind roam free. But I'm thinking, if a child was being, say, molested and she didn't want it that night, as in don't give it to me daddy or whatever, right? Little children don't like that sort of thing. We have to know and peer through on even that, because could that have been about to take its place and take its course, even with, say, a grown man trying to get on top of a child or whatever pertaining to the bed and how the bed looked after the young child left, and if it was made before. Because see, that can point in all different directions as well. Let me think. If a child goes missing and say her bed is not made, yes, made up, right? As in how when you pull back the covers to fix the pillow and you pull whatever up to fix the sheet and all that, and then you tuck whatever, that's in fact making your bed before you leave out to go to school, right? But if abuse played a part in that, say molestation or something like that, that points in a direction of even that. If the child left, because see, I didn't write this down, so I'm gonna have to organize even my thoughts pertaining to how this situation could or might not have been. So if a child's bed is made up, would she have made that bed? Because remember, she left around 3 or 4 a.m. So the bed had to look some type of way. And even that, as in messy and not looking all neat. Because see, if somebody leave at that time, and I don't think a child would even think like that, to say, let me sneak out at 3, 4 a.m. and make up my bed to make it appear to my parents that I was going off to school, knowing that the bus come around possibly 7 a.m. or something like that. Because to get up at 6:30 a.m. is to know the bus is going to be there around that time, 7:30 a.m. for you to make it to school, possibly at 8 or whatever time school children go to school. Back then they went. Would a child have made up her bed to make it appear like she was leaving out with somebody, supposedly a kidnapper, abductor, who could possibly have lured her in? Because she had made her bed to make it seem like she was going off to school. And as police went in, they would notice that very first thing. That would have been a sign and a clue, even in that. They view those type of things and they don't tell the parents pertaining to even that. As in the FBI police view a lot of certain things in which they don't tell the parents. That's the point anyway. So, could the child's bed have been made up? Because see, even that will point in the direction of even where she was going. That would a point right there whether a grown man was in fact trying to lure that child in by say if supposedly the parents didn't pack the bag to make it look like the child packed it and they packed it for her. That bed in a sense would in fact point to the direction of where the child was going. Because see, to have somebody groom you, as in a suspect, a kidnapper, groom you, they're more likely going to groom you all the way, in a sense of even making your bed, as in telling you to make it before you leave or something. I could be right, I could be wrong. But to know how 2 and 2 go together, because of how my mind can figure out by analyzing, is if a kidnapper is going to groom you as well as take you, somewhere in that missing piece should be some type of bed found, right? And I'm thinking, would he or would he have not had you make the bed? Because see, if a kidnapper is going to go as far as having you pack a bag, supposedly, more than likely somebody else did that, packed that child's bag, right? And then later on buried it. But a kidnapper, if they're going to go that far and having you pack a bag and say them supposedly guiding you, grooming you in that form of fashion and even grooming you to have you leave out at 3 a.m., then somewhere in that, once again, he would himself even know that a bed is involved in that. Because see, to lure somebody out at that time anyway is to more than likely get them in your bed or something crazy like that. A grown man, possibly killer, you never know, serial killer, whatever. He could possibly do that, as in lure the child out to get her, or even if it was a young boy, whatever, however sickles do, lure that child into his own bed. You see what I'm saying? So the connection right there will be that. And I don't know why that is. I just was sitting there documenting. I said, let me write that down right quick, because that would in fact fit as another missing piece, as in the link. To not be able to think this far, I think completely far, which is why I can't really hold conversations with people that are not like-minded like me, who hold that scientific mind to go forward, as in think further than the average student. We're all students here in life, and not just 9-year-old children walking out here being abducted. To have an open mind is to learn what may or may not played out that night. So with an abductor, knowing that he's going to take you, because see, I can't see no abductor, kidnapper taking you and then say it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What happens at 3 o'clock in the morning? Even sometimes sex and molestation with young children happen at that time, which is what makes some children want to leave away from home, to not allow that thing to continue, because that is a form of rape in the mind. It's taking advantage of something that don't want it, right? And so in me saying this, a kidnapper, what I'm thinking, would in fact consider a bed in the bedroom, as in guiding that young child possibly how to even make up her bed, and more than likely possibly how to even creep out her house, seeming she did supposedly creep out of her house. Because I said before, I said that the family more than likely has something to do with that. Maybe or maybe not, who knows? But you can only go so far even with that. I'm saying even a molestation charge pertaining to it, or something in the household, I stated before millions of times, that don't even seem right. Cause and effect. Remember, causation is this. A causation is completely this. To have a cause of something is to have an effect of something. So if I'm being molested, raped, or whatever, and even in my own household, that's in fact a cause, as in a causation. An effect of that is going to follow by somebody leaving, and possibly a young child, if she don't like that sort of thing. It affects your mind, as in it completely alters the mind. Cause and effect. So, that just seems only logic, doesn't it, to you? If you never considered this, how far would a kidnapper, abductor groom a child, even in her household? Say that abductor, say if they worked at school, if they worked the construction site, if they worked wherever, how far would they go even in learn a child, as in the grooming process? Because see, even that would take a while. Didn't I explain that? That will more likely take a while, because even to have a child that short and that timid is to know you're possibly going to have to even get through the mind of that child, where possibly even other individuals would have seen that sort of thing from even afar. Even young children pay attention, is what I'm trying to say. Schoolyard, wherever you're at, they would have seen something. So I said, see, a parent or a child could have made a child's bed. Either Asia or her parents or whoever could have made her bed. See, even if a murder had happened in the house, somebody else could have made that bed, and not say just a child. The bed stands questionable to me, because even if somebody murdered somebody and say put them somewhere or something like that, they would in fact want to cover that sort of thing, as in a cover-up. They might in fact even change the bed sheets as the bedding. You don't even know about people and what they do in their household. So never say you know somebody just because they go to church, just because they're a family. And even my mind is wide alert to even that here in the daytime, that just because you're seeing, see, that's surface thinking. I said it before, that surface thinking, to think that just because individuals go to church and run a household based upon the Lord or the good Lord, that does not mean anything. My grandmother's brother, I said it how many times, he in fact owned a church. But he didn't do all type of crazy things. And yet for me to grow up from the crib up until my early 20s being locked down in the house, as well as the church itself, engulfed by church itself, based upon how you're raised, is to know what people can do even in the church house. Yes, in the church, the four walls of a church, not his church, but I've seen, yes, growing up in people's churches, what people do. People do all type of things you wouldn't even think they would do in the church. Stop having surface thinking is what I'm trying to say. As in, stop taking things for what you think it is and yet maybe not be. As in the surface, to pull the layers back when you're looking at stuff. So, I said, see, a parent or child could have made a child's bed before or even after she left to make it appear as if the young child made it herself, to appear just enough as if she went off to school or something when she supposedly left. Did you get that? Do I need to repeat that? I'm wondering if I need to repeat that. See, a parent or a child could have made a child's bed before or even after she left to make it appear as if the young child made it herself, to appear just enough as if she went off to school or something when she supposedly left. So once again, was the bed made up or was it not? That speaks and points to a whole lot, even with FBI. Yes, it does. You can't tell me it does, because even the cover up could stand, and even that, as in, see, because the reason why I'm saying this is because, look, when children go to bed, they said the child went to bed at what time? Again, she went to bed and then somehow the power is knocked out somewhere around that time, and then she's back up again. And then you got the father checking on her not once but twice that night, and then supposedly whatever his time framing seems off and even going out in the middle of the night, right? But somewhere in that, the child supposedly went to sleep. And then she's up going to the bathroom, as even the bed being heard squeaking by her brother and all that. And then next thing you know, she's gone, whatever, right? So, sleep in fact plays a factor in that. Because see, even with a bed and you're questioning how was the bedding, it's to say whether the child, I'm sorry, I hope the wind is not blowing in this microphone. To say that a bed was even involved in this whole thing would even point and direct police, even in the form of molestation. Didn't I just say that? But not only that, it also points to whether the child actually went to sleep, as in the telling aspect. I can understand why many people don't like me. I can understand that, because I'm a thinking tank, and I should be even pointing to, say, possible molestation of even young children and supposed abduction. But say if the time frame, as in the parents' time frame meeting the FBI, if that sort of thing is off, for example, a bed would in fact tie in with even that. As in tie it by the string, even possibly by a loop. Who knows? And even a loophole. Who knows what even that? Because see, I'm thinking if you went to bed, as the parents say you went to bed, and even the brother say that you went to bed, right? That's to say that your bed had to be messed up somewhat, or semi-messed up somewhat. And even in you leaving, not looking back as you're leaving, as in walking away, supposedly leaving, going out the front door, dear Asia, and yet nobody knows about it and why and where, as in even your whereabouts, right? Something about that right there don't add up. But the bedding would in fact really not be made, I'm thinking. The bedding would in fact look sleepable, as if somebody was in it, possibly taking a nap. Because even young children take naps later on, even in the evening at night, though they're supposed to be all the way asleep. Yes, they do. You got some children depending on how they sleep. Sometimes they take a nap before it's really time for them to go to bed, which is why I question this sort of thing. And yet I think a child like that age, more likely would not really be staying up to sneak out of the front door. That just don't sound right. It doesn't sound right. It's telling as well as off. And not only that, it's forbidden. And yet for me to have somewhat of a, not disclosed mouth, but for me to be one with abstraction as in pointing stuff out is to open my mouth and say what is not right, as in what don't look right, as in what may or may not have been guided, even with that, the bedding. That right there just points to molestation charge, even whether the father was a molester. I don't want to say pervert, well, I'm not gonna say that, but child molester, even molesting his own child, or say O'Brien or something, but that still stands somewhat as like a molestation charge. Even if somebody did say supposedly take her and it comes out later who could have did whatever, molestation charge still has to stand in that, is what I'm trying to say. You just can't walk away with even a child arm by arm, side by side, and just think you're not gonna get away with that sort of thing. That's devious acts. And not only that, a murder could stand in that, even pertaining to the protrusion, as in the forbidden seed, laying to rest with children. That makes me sick even thinking about it. So that sick, twisted demeanor is all I'm saying. And I can't care who is mad about me saying that. So, the bedding. How was the bedding? Even in a child supposedly leaving. Because see that, yes, once again, let me repeat, because I repeat just enough. I'll probably repeat more than Fox, CNN, and possibly even the top 40 or whoever that's on pop radio stations. I'll probably repeat just as much as them, if not more. But with that, if you leave and you are 9 years old, before you left, it was stated that you went to sleep, as in went to bed. And yet some children, when they're told by even their parents to say go lay down or whatever, and remember we factor in the power went out even that night, right? But some children even in fact lay on top of the bed, on top of the covers, and not under it, right? And so that's why stuff has to be questionable, because see, if a child is being lured away, she might in fact not be up under the cover, knowing that she's going to supposedly sneak out, leave out for an abductor. She might not be up under the cover, knowing that she's leaving, or whatever. She may not be fully up under the cover next to the bed, as in laying up under covers, knowing that she's leaving back out. But to say that the blanket and all that was actually messed up, if nobody tainted it as such as the parents messing it up to make it look like she was there, or whatever they could have did with her body, you never know what grown men and women think. They could in fact had covered themselves on that to make it look like she had slept there before even police got there. Say if they killed her hours before and just played and act like going into 6:30 they noticed that she was gone. People lie all the time. Yes, they do. And so you have to question the bed as well. Dear people that's following the Asia degree case, you have to question that. That just is. So, let me think. Because see, not saying a pedophile was there as in living in a home, but even if, say, the child bed was messy, as in all over the place, right? You can look even deeper into that, even in relation to molestation even going on in the house. As in, where was she sleeping that night, that evening, or yes, night, whatever, before she left? Around all the power being knocked out, where was this child's whereabouts? See, the connected dots is to do it just nice. Even with a friendly face, despite me sometimes ticking people off and making them offended. See, people a lot of times they get offended at me as the individuals that can't face real life. How many times have I said that? I've said that. See, people would watch celebrities and be all excited and can hear about the tragedies of their life and how exciting they want you to talk about that all day. But when a missing child goes missing and you start discussing gruesome matter or what could happen, then they want to sit and turn you off. Or point a finger about how wrong you are in explaining the details, and don't say that. Well, why not? You just sit and watch Beyonce and Madonna and everybody else talk about how gruesome something happened in their past of them being raped, so what's the difference? So you're telling me that a young child missing persons is much less valuable than, say, Madonna, Beyonce, and all the rest of them? Then that shows a problem with you, whoever feels that me stating what I state. Yes, because see, people that sit watching celebrities and can go on and on about such and such called such and such police because they found out that such and such was being raped and molested. But because they're celebrity, people want to talk about that all day. But then when you sit talking about the gruesome matters of a young child being abducted, then they want to switch you off, tell you off everything else. So what? The child is not as valuable as a celebrity? Well, maybe that's why I don't sit watching celebrities unless it's got something to do with some business or something important of that. But to be watching them in my private time, that's a no-go because their life is not even real. No, it's not. To have worked in mass media is to say just what I just said. If you don't know what you're watching on TV, pointing to how celebrity lifestyle is in fact orchestrated, and you don't know, then that's to say that's an absent-minded thing on your end. So I know just what I'm talking about because I know how mass media is in fact ran, operate as well as orchestrated. So let me do what I do. Yep, I said yes, even a bed is telling, even in helping police to help solve her case. Yep, I stated that. Let's repeat that again. Pay attention. Wasn't it stated that Asia went to sleep? That she went to sleep as in went to bed around the time that the power was knocked out. I just repeated that, 4 or 5 times? How many times did I repeat that? Was it 4 times or 5 times? It was stated that Asia went to sleep around the time the power was knocked out, before she decided to leave. That bed should have remained the same and not been made up as she was going out into the night air. Usually when you go to see and wake up, usually you leave a bed that way, even in sneaking out of the house in place of, say, making your own bed. Usually you would just, if you're sneaking out doing something, because even teenagers do that, you would in fact just leave. And leave the bed as it is, strong, and even that as in the way. Because see, if I was police, I'm bad as a bone. Nah, I don't work for police though. I'm bad as a bone. See, if it was me and I was working as police, FBI back then, I would have took everything in that child's bed, as in the bedding material itself, to the crime lab. Think I wouldn't have? There's many people that think like me. I would have took everything that was on that child's bed. Yes, I would have taken it straight to the crime lab, because see, and police need to start doing even that, because see, to know that a child goes missing at 3 or 4 a.m. is to in fact wrap the bedding up, put it into a bag, or however you do it, paper bag, however they do with the crime scene and all that. Take that bedding material, the comforter, the sheets, the pillows, everything, and take it to the crime lab to see if semen and everything else is on the bedding, as well as the fingerprints of, say, of a father or a mother. One of the two, you would in fact do that sort of thing. Yes. See how specific I am? Because I'm thinking if the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children know that one of the #1 reasons of why children in fact go missing is a lot of times over custody matters, and yet these parents was both the biological parents of Asia, and yet say if they weren't, but even if they are, right, it's to still know that even they know, as well as FBI, when children go missing, more than likely foul play is at play in the form of sexual abuse. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, one or the two is at play. To have a high rate of percentage of kids going missing is to have a high rate of that sort of thing going down. And so if I was once again FBI, I would in fact take the bedding, because I don't play when it comes to children at that age of them not being a teenager, being able to think more logically and specifically for themselves, even if they're being lured and guided out the house. If I was FBI, I would have taken everything. Think I would have not. For me, this is not a game. I would in fact have taken that young child's bedding. The comforter, the sheet that goes up under the comforter, because some children have that, as well as the sheet that goes up on the bed, right? As well as what else? Her pillow, as well as the pillowcase. See, some people's pillows have in fact plastic on it, right up under the pillowcase, and yet some pillows don't. So these FBI, whoever, sheriff, whatever, they need to start doing stuff more deeper, knowing that these many children are going, because even that would help solve cases in the crime matter, and even pointing to the realm of semen, because to be allowed to be given the opportunity to go put a search on the house anyway is to read even the fine detail of even the bedding, as in the mattress, scoping if semen is there on the same day that you're seeing if the child has ran away. Because see, that just don't make sense to me. It never does, and it never will, and possibly never will. As even with FBI, with them tracing back and not telling. To miss something is to just say. As even possibly a bedding, telling whether a supposed abductor there or not. Because see, beds hold all type of things, and semen is one of them. To lay a drop in the middle of the night, as in plant some substance, is to know it might in fact be there, or maybe not. Who's to say? And yet to call that sort of thing